G'day guys, welcome back to Reach Me or Teach Me. I have been loving this journey so far, discovering a whole new world of athletes and seeing some magnificent highlights and all the rest of it. But look, seeing the biggest hits and the best jukes and all the rest of it is great fun, but it doesn't really teach me anything about the game except that certain players are next level. But subscriber Robert Diedrich has picked up on the fact that I'm not your casual observer, and I'm a little bit more driven in the nuances and the details of games. The game within the game, if you'd like, is a term that I've been using a lot. And he has sent me a guide here on how to read a defense, the basic guide to the basics of football coverage. And I'm super keen to check this out, learn a little bit more about the X's and O's, if you'd like. So hopefully you guys enjoy this too. It may not get that many views. It's not a big exciting video for your typical American fan to watch, but yeah, get on board, guys. Let's go.
Coverage concepts are some of the least discussed but most important aspects to understanding the strategy behind the game of football. Before we take the time to look at any specifics of Adam Fuller's defense at Florida State, I thought it would be worth my time to touch on some core concepts that will make those later discussions go a bit smoother.
Volume seems good.
Let's first start with the most fundamental of all coverage schemes, man coverage. As the name implies, a defender is assigned to all eligible receivers, and there are...
Okay. The letters. What do the letters mean? I've got no idea. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to read it, trying to watch it. I don't even know which side's the defense at the moment. I'm guessing Q, he's the offense. Well, these guys are the offenders. These guys are the offensive line. And I'm thinking these guys, this is cornerback? Nah, sorry. I'll watch some more.
Responsible for them no matter where they go in the field. Because man coverage is inherently risky, man defenders are almost always backed up by deep zone defenders, but we'll get into that a bit more later. There are several different ways to play man coverage, and honestly a whole series of videos could be devoted to just this topic, but I'm going to break it down into two broad categories. First is off man, which places the defender at about 10 yards. This allows for a slower defender, like a safety, to have a cushion for deeper routes, but they can also be useful for shorter concepts. In general, it's a lot faster to move forward than backwards. Some defenders are comfortable trusting their awareness to break on short routes quickly. The second and more common form of man coverage is press man. That's usually played pressed up within a yard or two of the receiver. Notice that no one ever plays in this 3 to 5 yard range. This is no man's land. They're too far to have any real impact on the receiver at the line of scrimmage, and yet too close to have a reliable cushion on deep routes.
Okay, so you got to be up or back. So it's about, they're saying 10 yards. Interestingly, just referring it back to my bases and where I've come from, so a rugby league style coverage is like that drop coverage where they're back 10 yards, and a rugby union is a bit more like a press coverage where essentially the offensive line and the defensive line are more or less face to face. Interesting.
Not all press man is made the same. In general, a defender has the option to either jam at the line of scrimmage, meaning he gets his hands on the receiver early, or he can do what's called mirror technique. This method is a bit more conservative. The goal is for the defender to mirror the first steps of the receiver and basically present a wall for him to have to run through.
Okay.
A good jam, on the other hand, is supposed to disrupt the stem or the first few steps of the route. This can throw off the timing on shorter routes and make it hard for a receiver to find leverage. However, jam technique has its drawbacks as well. Although the ball doesn't go here, you can see how this missed jam gets the corner's center of gravity out in front of his feet, which means he's lost from the onset of the play. In general, man coverage is the easiest to diagnose for the offense. Firstly, the defenders tend to stare down their assignments, and if you're still not sure, motion can be a good indicator as well. If the defender trails, it's almost definitely man of some kind.
Okay. I see that. It's cool.
Another potential problem with man is now that the defenders turn their back to the backfield, it can often mean that they have their backs turned when the quarterback decides to take off.
Ah.
The other main category of coverage is zone.
Wow. that boy had some open field, didn't he? Jesus. Look at that. Wow.
The other main category of coverage is zone. What most people think of when they think of zone defense is commonly called spot drop zone. That simply refers to the idea that players have an area that they are responsible for and they drop to that spot once the ball is snapped. Anyone who has played a game of Madden should be familiar with these defenses. The first thing many quarterbacks are taught to look for is the safeties when diagnosing a coverage. They will generally tell you the shell the defense is in and often give a huge hint to the defense's coverage as a whole. Take this look for instance. With two deep safeties, this is commonly referred to as a middle of the field open coverage. Generally, this either means they're playing cover 2, meaning two deep defenders, or cover 4. The difference is subtle, but in cover 4, usually the corners are playing off, and the safeties are closer to the middle of the field. Generally, the weak spots in a defense can be inferred based on these shells. In cover 2, there's a big gap in the middle of the field, which eventually led to the invention of Tampa 2, where the linebacker sinks a bit deeper into the middle of the field. In addition, cover 2 also presents another gap in what's called the pocket between the corner and the safety. Here's cover 2 in action. Memphis takes advantage of this too-high shell by hitting a post in the middle of the field. The other main too-high safety coverage is cover 4, which does a better job defending the deep parts of the field, but often leaves holes for short to intermediate routes. Man coverage underneath is commonly combined with a high zone shell, and this can be easily seen with single high or middle of the field closed defenses. The most common coverages here are cover 1, which is almost exclusively called man free, as you have to play man underneath with only one deep defender, as he can't cover the whole field. And then there's cover 3. Cover 3 is probably the most common shell in football. Having only one deep safety allows the other safety to play as a box defender and help against the run, while having less deep holes in the coverage than cover 2. However, no play is perfect. If you were to guess, where's the weakness in this scheme?
Alright, so I'm going to say that there would be short wing attacks. So you've got the ability to throw a short, wide pass into this gap here. And I'm thinking, because this guy's semi back here, that the other pocket might be in here. Maybe here as well. But I'm assuming if you see that defensive lineup, you're going to approach short and wide.
If you guessed along the seams or hash marks, then you're right. It can be really difficult for a single safety to patrol both seams. Here you see the single safety in the middle of the field with the corners deep and facing the backfield, which is a good indicator that you're seeing zone defense, and therefore it's most likely some form of cover 3. Memphis has the right play drawn up, and you can see that the quarterback doesn't spend any time looking at anything other than the seam, which challenges this middle free safety. This core problem with cover 3 inspired Bill Belichick and Nick Saban to innovate back in the 90s in their time at the Cleveland Browns. They invented a way to play cover 3 that is able to convert to man when the offense runs 4 verticals in order to get better coverage of the seam. They call this coverage Rip Liz, and it started a revolution and has since created a whole new category of coverages, man-match defenses. Man-match defenses look to have the best of both worlds from man and zone. Defenders wait for a receiver to declare where they are going before they take them in man coverage. These can get incredibly complicated and could honestly have several videos to themselves, but to get the point across, I want to look at the most simple version of man-match coverage, banjo.
So, my take on this so far is that while it's incredibly scripted and play-driven and trying to think of the word, it's basically prescribed. It's we're going to line up in this defensive formation, but then there's a certain amount of reactionary aspect to it, where certain defenders have kind of got to be able to switch between modes. So while it's still very, let's say, prescribed and very linear in its approach, there's definitely a scope for The word going off the cuff. I can't think of, my words are just not wording today. It's interesting though. Like it's the differences in the formations are minimal, but it does completely change the way that the offense will approach it. It's a really fascinating video because, to be honest, as an outside observer who's seen very little of it, I thought it was the opposite. I thought essentially the offense was dictating the terms, and the defensive were reacting to that. So if they were running a certain style of offense, the defense would switch. But it's almost the opposite. It's like the defense comes out with a set plan, and then the offense has got to be a little bit more flexible and malleable to sort of adjust.
When the offense has a 2-receiver side, the defense can call banjo, which means the safety takes the first man inside in man coverage, and the corner waits for the first man out. This allows the defense to play tight man without having to worry about pick
Let me go back.
coverage. Banjo. When the offense has a 2-receiver side, the defense can...
Do they not always have a 2-receiver side? I'm confused. How is that not a 2-receiver side?
call banjo, which means the safety takes the first man inside in man coverage, and the corner waits for the first man out. This allows...
Well, that's basically a zone coverage, yeah? Because you're essentially reacting to who's coming into that area, not following the man. But they're playing a man coverage with essentially a flexibility to stick in the zone. Communication must be pretty important between the two defensive players there.
allows the defense to play tight man without having to worry about pick plays, and allows them to adapt to all kinds of route concepts. This evolution has culminated in a whole system of man-match defense that Saban refers to as his Cover 7 series. It's named Cover 7 because it uses 7 men to always have a 4-over-3 matchup. A whole system of man-match defense that Saban refers to as his Cover 7 series. It's named Cover 7 because it uses 7 men to always have a 4-over-3 matchup, or a 3-over-2 matchup against spread formations.
Okay.
These defenses allow you to play 2 separate coverages to either side of the field. These split field systems are becoming increasingly common in the war to combat the spread offense. The final thing I haven't mentioned is how to handle blitzes. There really is 2 options if the defense wants to bring in extra man and pressure. They can either play man across the board with minimal deep help, or they can play what's called fire zones. These are generally spot drop zones that are commonly named based off the amount of deep defenders. So in this play, Memphis starts with a 2-high look but rotates after the snap to a 3-high coverage. They bring 2 linebackers and drop this defensive end in coverage, giving them a 3-over-3-under fire zone. Alright, I think that covers most of the main ideas I wanted to get to. So let's end this off with a bit of a quiz section. Take a look at this pre-snap. What coverage is Memphis playing here, and how do you attack it if you were the offensive coordinator?
I'm not going to lie, I don't even know which team's going. I think he's getting ready to snap it. So I think this is the offensive team. All right, let me go back and hear the question again.
What coverage is Memphis playing here, and how do you attack it if you were the offensive?
Okay. So they've got this press man coverage, I think, because they're all looking. No, he's not looking, but they're these outside defenders. It's looking like a press man. So I'm probably sending this guy into this region, because that's where you've got the overlap. You've got 1, 2, 3 versus 2 out here. So that relies on this guy. You watch, I bet you I've got this completely back to front. Oh fuck, I have too, haven't I? Wait a minute. Which one is... Memphis is... What an idiot. So I am right. No, Memphis is defending. Oh, Jesus, sorry, folks. Hang on.
As I wanted to get to. So let's end this off with a bit of a quiz section. Take a look at this pre-snap. What coverage is Memphis playing here, and how...
Oh, okay, so I had it completely back to front. So Houston is attacking. Memphis is defending. Houston is red. Memphis is here in the grey/blue. So they are, so they're running a press man because all the defenders, their eyes are on the offensive player. They're essentially squaring up with them and they're up high. So press man. So based on that, I'm assuming attack out wide out here. Do a little juke. Come out this way. Try and draw this guy in through. I don't know. I'm guessing that I'm sending this guy in as a sort of decoy into this zone here to try and tie up this defender and hopefully cause this guy a little bit of a second guess. This guy's going to juke in and then go out.
How do you attack it if you were the offensive coordinator?
I'm trying to hit these pockets in the back here somewhere anyway. So I'm trying to get one of these outside receivers, wide receivers I'm guessing, to get out into this pocket in and around this 20-yard line area.
Well, the first thing you should look at is the safeties. With one high safety, they are most likely either playing man-free or some form of cover 3. If it were cover 3, you would see these corners playing back with their eyes toward the backfield. But instead, across the line of scrimmage, you see the defenders head up with their responsibilities.
Okay, so I got that part right.
Indicating man coverage. So we know we have man free. The final question is what these linebackers are doing. They're either splitting the responsibility for the running back in the backfield, or one is dropping into some kind of robber zone in the middle of the field, or they're...
But either way, I'm still seeing there's essentially he's going to come in and drop this area. So that leaves this guy to have to cover one of two zones.
Coming on a blitz and leaving one on an island with the running back. In this play, Memphis brings 2 of the linebackers and one waits for the running back. Oftentimes, if...
Oh, look at this. This is exactly what I said. He's running in, does a little juke, and then goes
this defender
outside.
sees that the running back is in pass protection, then he can come on for the running
down
back.
The bottom here?
Oftentimes, if the...
So it's the opposite on this side. He jukes outside and then steps in.
This defender sees that the running back is in pass protection, then he can come on a delayed blitz, which is often just referred to as a green dog blitz. Alright, last play.
Okay, so... who's got the ball?
What do you see here?
Okay, so Memphis has got the ball.
Referred to as a green dog blitz.
Let's go back.
Alright, last play.
Okay, so Memphis is attacking. Oh, this is how I can tell. Duh.
What do you...
Okay, so Memphis has got the ball. They're in like a drop. Shit, what were these two? I can't remember what they were called back here. There's too much information at the start. So forgetting what the coverage is called, I'm feeling like there's an opening here. If he runs in, stops and turns and just receives the pass in and around this area. Or alternatively, there's a bit of open space on this side. He can come in, juke out, and go for a longer pass out the back here. Because that short side, it doesn't seem like there's enough space. There's too many defenders over there ready for that. He's got to match up with him. Gee, I wouldn't see a lot, really, because this guy can come over here, and then essentially you've got 2v1. 2 defenders on 1 attacking player. So the safe play for me would be to come up and then just turn and try and receive a short pass inside. Otherwise, yeah, nothing else.
What do you see here? Now this is a tricky one. Immediately you see 2 high safeties, so we're thinking either some kind of cover 2 or cover 4. On the bottom of the screen, it immediately looks like cover 4. The corner is playing deep with the eyes towards the backfield, meaning he probably has some deep zone responsibilities. But on the top of the screen, it looks like this safety has half the field deep because the corner's playing tight and face up to the receiver, almost like man coverage. If this were true zone coverage, you could call this cover 6.
But that makes sense because, excuse me, because there's just not enough space to work with up on the short side. So don't give them the speed and like this one here. He's got so much more space that he's got to try and protect. So he can't press up because it's just too easy for them to get a pocket pass in behind here.
which just means half of the field is playing cover 4 with the other half playing cover 2. But in reality, this is one of those split field coverages I talked about earlier. On the bottom, it looks like a version of what's called.
So it's that they've got that overlap always. So they've got 3 defenders here and 2 attackers, and over here they've got 3 defenders on really 1.5 attacker. So they've always got that overlap.
Mix and Saban's system, which is basically a type of man match cover 4. On top, you probably have some kind of cone coverage, where the safety and corner are comboing this wide out. Much like the banjo coverage I talked about earlier, except this is for only one receiver. Since there is a form of cover 4 match down here, once this receiver commits vertical, the safety takes him man on man, while the play action pulls away.
So if I stop here, I'm seeing this guy still. This is my original play. He's coming up and he's basically stopping on that first down line, and he's just going to stop, turn, and receive.
His underneath help, which makes this out route an easy completion. Now this was just the basics. There's a whole.
Oh, okay. Well, same zone, same area, but different player. So he went. It was this guy. So he went in and then came back across, I think.
Makes this out route an easy completion. Now this was just the basics.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say I got that completely wrong. I mean, it was essentially the same pass to the same region. It was just a different receiver.
There's a whole world of coverage concepts that I didn't even touch on. There are zone match coverage.
What's this line? Why is that all like digitized? Does it say get line? Get line. What's a get line? Okay, what's the coverage? So this is that hybrid thing that came about in the 90s. Because again, you've got 3 over here versus 2. You've got 3 over here versus 2. Was this guy called? Was it the free safety? Was that his name? And he's sort of covering that pocket in the middle.
Coverages in all sorts of ways that coverage interacts with gap responsibilities at the line of scrimmage. I would love to be able to cover these concepts in future videos, but
it's a great call. Where is the weakness in that? Possibly a rush up the middle. So if they can man up and block these defensive linesmen here, that would technically open up a little spot. Now, if this guy's backing up to try and cover this area in the middle, if these guys spread wide, I'm feeling like a little rush straight up the guts. But either that, or again, you've got to go for these short passes. You've got to get this defender here backpedaling at the bottom of the screen and try and turn and receive early.
But up next is a closer look at how we can use these concepts to understand what kinds of things defensive coordinator Adam Fuller likes to run at Florida State.
Okay.
What kinds.
That almost was this second guy up on the right hand, on the bottom of the screen, the Memphis dude. He runs up, turns, and he's there. He's open for it.
Things defensive.
Right there. He's there. He's ready. If that pass comes through to this guy here,
coordinator Adam Fuller.
And then they've got what happened there?
Closer look at how we can use these concepts to
so this guy at the back drops way deep.
Understand what kinds of things.
Interesting. So with him dropping so deep, again, this guy here then becomes essentially a free open man. And then now they've got 2-on-1 going the other way.
Things defensive coordinator
So yeah, so it's definitely a zone coverage because he didn't chase his man. He saw it, he got past him and saw there was somebody else coming in his zone that might be a threat. But in that instance, I feel like this guy was way too deep. I feel like he should have been more up in and around this zone near the 20-yard line. So different over this side because again they've got that extra defender, they've got that extra man, so he can sit super deep. But up here, there's a big wide gap here between the nearest defender. So you're definitely attacking that left side every time in that setup.
Adam Fuller likes to run at Florida State.
Is that just a bad throw or what?
Thanks for sticking with me. I hope this was informative.
Okay. Super cool, super confusing. I think I learned a lot, but it won't all make sense until I'm actually starting to see it in play, if you'd like. So it was a lot of information to take in for someone who's very new to the game. I can't believe I had the wrong team before. Anyway, look, I'm super keen to really get into this stuff. This is what makes football different. Most of the other football codes are very freelance and very off the cuff, very few set plays. American football, as I say, is so prescribed and so pre-planned and strategic. But it's really interesting to see how much it's all good and well the coaches drawing up certain lines on a map or lines on a piece of paper on their clipboard, but the players still have to be able to react and essentially either take what opens up in front of them or they've got to close a gap that happens to open up because the offense has read their defensive setup well. Yeah, cool. Very much. Thank you for the recommendation. I really enjoyed that. If there's anything more like this that goes into the nitty-gritties, I'm very keen to learn. I think it's going to take some time to actually get my head around it all, but this is the stuff that makes your sport different, and this is what I want to know about. So thank you very much for that recommendation. If you've stuck around this long, guys, and haven't already subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.